crowd here wants to speak tonight, which is awesome. Privilege of the floor, public comment. Speaker, please, I want to try to work. We don't have a sign-up list or anything like that, but I'll try to work maybe from the front of the room to the back or some kind of orderly fashion, just to, everybody gets a chance to speak. What I typically do is we usually have a 5-minute timer, sand timer. In this case, one gets stuck, I keep the big one around. Okay, so I just try to keep it, so it's fair for everybody, and everybody gets, see what they have to say, which is terrific. It's public comment, it's not necessarily.
Switch it back, yeah.
One thing I ask is, let's please be civil and courteous to all, and intellectual enthusiasm is valued here, so I appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Keenan, go ahead and announce your name and address.
Joe Keenan.
Thank you, sir.
Does it work?
Yes, it
Hello.
You can take it off.
Nice to use.
Get my pad out.
Stand by Todd. Joe Keenan, Chairman, Town Worker Ethics Board. I just want to go on record. Pardon me, sir?
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. The Ethics Board has been a year since you brought us back up to speed, and we've had meetings religiously month after month. And every now and then, we haven't had to work a lot of issues, but every now and then we have an issue. And what we've noticed, and no disrespect to Mr. Du Bois, is we share an attorney, and sometimes the town board and ethics board could have a different opinion, and we don't want to put him in a conflict of interest, whether actual, perceived, or potential. So we discussed soliciting for an attorney if we need one, a separate attorney for the ethics board. The ethics board itself, we don't have the authority to do that. So if the town board can look at its resources and work something out. If Mr. Du Bois did work for us, obviously he'd get paid. So if it was somebody else, obviously they would get paid. So hopefully there's no additional cost factor. So I just wanted to mention that, and then I'll leave that. Thank you. Joe Keenan, again, Chairman of the Board, Coldham Fire District. And I just want to, Mr. Farr had to leave, but just some of the things he said were great, especially fire inspector. If you beef up the building department and inspectors, so however you do that, if you can, from my perspective, and we haven't had a fire inspector in town in maybe forever, right, Dan? Ever. And, each department in the town, fire department, they have chiefs, but they're not fire inspectors. Sometimes at incidents, we have to call a building inspector in. It's better to have a qualified expert. So I just want to throw my 2 cents out that I was glad for him to say that, and hopefully you guys can work that out. Last thing, Joe Keenan, a citizen. I think it's great what they want to do at Benedict Park and the partnership with the, I know my glasses are on top of my head. The Friends of Benedict Park. But up the road in Coldham, I'm from Coldham, there's the Coldham Ruins, which is a town park, a National Historic and State Landmark. And you can't go there anymore. You can't even go there once a year anymore. It's all overgrown. There is a Coldham Preservation and Historical Society, which I thought at one time was going to partner with the town to kind of spruce that up. And I know some of that got stuck on the highway department to clean some things out. And they don't have the manpower to do that. But I grew up there as a kid. I know the hazards. We're stupid. We walked around there. And I know there's hazards there, and that's why it's not open to the public. But maybe the town board, or maybe you have it on your agenda somewhere in the back burner to meet with the Historical Society again, and maybe get that up and running. I know they were talking about doing trails and putting up fence near the hazards so people don't go get hurt. But it'd be nice. It's a good bit of history of the town, and you drive by today, you can't see it because it's all overgrown. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Just a note that Mr. Schaefer went out and put the sign up, fixed the sign on the Golden Hand Moon on his own time and budget. Kudos to Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
This one's stuck. Mr. Weber, I've got a stuck timer.
Do it the old
We
fashioned.
got a backup. I'm just gonna start down this road, if we could. Let's keep it systematic a little bit. Thank you, sir.
Microphone.
Okay. My name is Richard Bistrak.
Sir, just name and address and give some.
Okay, Richard Bistrak, 465 State Route 72K.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the reason I am here is because if I'm over time, just throw a brick at me. Okay?
No, sir.
I'm here regarding the Blue Water Sewer Plant. That's why I'm here. I'm against giving tax rebates to any organization, period. Rebates provide too much opportunity for a wide variety of negotiations because millions of dollars are involved. More important, most negotiations are not public. In this particular case, Blue Water major negotiation was conducted involving the proposed sewer plant in the summer of last year by the town of Montgomery and Blue Water. You've been given a copy of the letter authorizing the acceptance of that sewer plant by the town of Montgomery as soon as it's completed. Letter was written September of 2018. Letter was written and signed by the building inspector for inspector, but I can assure you he did not write that letter himself because it goes beyond his authority. And the letter was written by higher authority. Early last year, it became apparent to Blue Water the sewer plant could be a major obstacle, obviously due to the sensitivity, environmental and operational aspects. So Blue Water wanted the matter resolved before they would do further due diligence on this project. The urgency of the resolution is apparent from the early transfer of the responsibility of that plant. I am quite confident Blue Water asked the town of Montgomery for a commitment, not a handshake, in writing, because the issue was a make or break type of a decision. In other words, they would not continue due diligence if this issue was not resolved. This commitment makes no sense from the town of Montgomery perspective other than to help relieve Blue Water of a major impediment and encourage their further due diligence. All this was done prior to public hearings, prior to planning board approval, and wasted a lot of time for people attending planning board meetings thinking they were assessing the full viability of the project. I have talked to a number of people about accepting this sewer plant, and none of them think it's a good idea. There is no line of customers waiting for sewer hookup in the area. How many people are going to pay $25,000 for sewer hookup plus fees and abandon their septics? This issue is not critical for the town of Montgomery, as could be assumed any time for storage facility. For example, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, any time. There is no benefit doing so immediately, other than adding to reducing the risk for Blue Water and increasing their benefit package of $22 million tax abatement, $6 million sales tax, and reduced filing fee. Plant capacity will be built only for sailfish, 20,000 gallons per day. No other modules will be installed. There is a serious question as to whether the increased capacity would even be allowed, 40,000, 60,000, or 80,000 into that intermittent tributary of the Tin Brook. So assuming plant on premise capacity can be increased further is a gamble at best. It is very likely a far more beneficial deal could be struck in the future regarding takeover of this plant, which would better benefit town of Montgomery early acceptance of this plant. A recent planning board meeting, the chairman stated he is not going to recommend supporting taking over the sewer plant. Initially taking over the sewer plant, however, he added that the decision could be overruled by the town board. I am requesting the town board to rescind this letter, takeover letter. Do not assume responsibility for this facility, which it will be dumping 20,000 gallons per day into an intermittent stream in the heart of wetlands and routinely monitored by the DEC. Let Blue Water find an independent contractor to run their plant. Town of Montgomery does not need this headache. Neely Town Road was designated as the big warehouse district, but apparently that is not enough for the IDA. Now, these monstrous buildings are being thrown to the outskirts borders of Montgomery, left and right, Sailfish East, Medline West. I am not against development. I vigorously supported Arkell Motors' application to develop the same land for their new corporation headquarters, which was a perfect fit to the land area. Despite many supporters, the planning board turned down the project for what now seems, in current environment of salvage yards, battery plants, and mega warehouses, ridiculous reason why they turned it down.
Thank you, sir.
That's it?
Here, little Ready on the left first, please? Yeah, thank you.
Got my 5 minutes and finish. So why can't you take my
Hello,
5
my
minutes and
name's Mary
finish?
Lippincott. I live in the village of Montgomery, but I am a town of Montgomery community gardener. And I called your office a month ago or 6 weeks ago about the speed bumps behind Bruce Schaefer's house. And you told me they were put there because he complained. I said, what about the speed bumps from the ball fields all the way down? And you said, no one's complained. I said, consider this a complaint. And I know 2 other people that have called and complained, and nothing is done. There is so much dust when those people come down from the ball fields and the landing strip for the boats. Why are there no speed bumps there? The police don't need to stand there and monitor. They just watch this dust coming up.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, welcome.
I'm Maria Beltrametti at 109 Ward Street. I own Recycled Style, which sits at the almost about 30 feet from the intersection of 17K and 211 in the heart of the village of Montgomery. For 10 years I've been there now, and I've seen, and I just happen to catch, because I'm not outside all day, I go out in my shop now and then, and I regularly see, at least 2 or 3 times a day, an 18-wheel tractor-trailer combo maneuvering through that 400 square feet of intersection with impunity. All of the other vehicles have to back up, move over, or just pray. And as far as the pedestrians are concerned, they're going back and forth to the yoga studio, the craft studio, formerly the pharmacy, the massage therapy office, hair salon, and my shop. I mean, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And that's where we are today. For tomorrow, there are currently 6 warehouses on the drawing table slated for 17K or 211 within the town, half of them being built on spec, that will immediately bring construction traffic and eventually employee traffic. In the case of Medline, as many as 600 employees will likely go straight through the village every day in 3 shifts. You have the power to declare a moratorium on industrial development to address the problem comprehensively. To do this piecemeal is a disaster in the making. Please do the right thing for residents who have the biggest investments of all, our homes, our families, and our livelihoods. Thank you.
Back. Yes, ma'am. Look like you're next back there.
Am I?
I think so. I'm just looking down
All
the
right.
road here. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Leah Westcott, and I live on 175 Pleasant Avenue. I've never done this before. I'm really wigged out right now.
No, it's fine. Here, we'll make you more nervous.
Okay, thank you. I actually appreciate that.
No, relax.
I just moved here, actually. I've been here less than a year. I purchased my home at the end of June, but I did not move in until the end of September. I love this town. When I drove through here, I came from Tarrytown. I was like, oh my God, this place, it's so quiet. It reminds me of Nyack before it got all crazy with their antique shops and their bridges and whatnot. This place is perfect. And then in March, right as I was saving for all my renovations, somebody came and knocked on my door and said, hey, do you know about the big warehouse that's gonna go in? Hey, do you know about the other big warehouse that's about to go in? I said, no, I know nothing about this. So I have started to attend the meetings. I have never attended any meetings in any town I have ever lived in. And I have now attended 4. I'm ready to sell. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I've my losses. I feel bad for everybody here who's been invested for 30, 40, 50 years. This is your home. I want to make this my home, but I am not that invested in it yet. I can cut and run. And what I'm hearing about the big picture of what's going to happen to this town is not what I moved in here for. Yes, there is growth. Yes, development happens. But when you have a big vision as to what your town wants to look like with the growth, you can actually put forth ideas and recruit people and businesses that you want to come in here. I actually have no problem with Medline coming in, if it was their headquarters. I have no problems with Amazon coming in, if it was their headquarters. But when you have warehouse and distribution center, one after the other, all you end up being is a truck stop.
Right.
And one of the things that really drew me to this town was when I drove through it, there were no parking meters. Oh, how I love that. No parking meters, people walking around. Everybody was so friendly. People reached out to me, business owners. They said, hey, if you ever want the history of this town, come on in, have a muffin, and I'll tell you everything. I mean, it's great. There are colonial houses that need fixing up. All it needs is some people with some love and some money, but nobody's gonna come in with that love and money when there's nothing to here except for truck stops and traffic. It's not gonna happen. This town will die. It really will, and I'm not gonna stick around for it. So just keep that in mind, that there are people who are coming from the south up, from the city, from Tarrytown, from Nyack, that they're starting to come up because it's getting too congested down there.
Yes.
But they're not gonna pick this place to live, if this is the plan that it's going down. Okay, just keep it away from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you got? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Karina Tipton. I live at 225 Union Street in the village of Montgomery, on the side by the airport. Yep. I wanted to bring to your attention that I drive down 416 on my way to Campbell Hall. I go to the gym super early in the morning because I have a long day and it's the only time I can fit it in. I've consistently seen more and more tractor trailers just this year. I have never noticed this before, but I'm on the road at 4:45 in the morning driving on 416, which is actually like surprisingly beautiful at that time of day. It's not as bad as I might make it out to be, but there's tractor trailers parked in every nook and cranny they can find, and I'm assuming the drivers are sleeping. And I'm not here because I want the police officers to go and rouse them. Like, I have a lot of appreciation for the way tractor trailer drivers are squeezed. I mean, they've got huge time restraints, the amount of time they're allowed to stay on the road, the amount of time they have to rest, the logging they have to do. They deserve a place to rest. What I'm concerned about is they're here because of the warehouses. They're here because of the distribution centers. And what I'm seeing this year is that Montgomery has outgrown its infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure to support the businesses that are already here and those tractor trailers that are making our economy run. And so I wanted to bring this to your attention because I too believe that we need a moratorium. We have to figure out what our infrastructure is capable of. We have to understand where we can invest in our infrastructure to make it better for the residents who live here now and for the businesses who are here now. And I'm asking you to consider and to vote and to pass on a moratorium on development until we can figure out the comprehensive plan and we can figure out how to invest in our infrastructure to make it better for all of us who are already here.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Welcome.
I'm concerned about the environmental degradation of these projects. When you look at Medline, the size of this building and the amount of impervious surface being created for parking will result in unavoidable polluted overflow that will wash into the wetlands and the Rockhill River. And we just heard recently how your stormwater management is inadequate. So this is the other thing, besides being an eyesore, this building is still in open space that functions as an important corridor and habitat for wildlife. Many grassland birds such as American woodcock, eastern meadowlark, northern harrier depend on open space that's provided by farmland. Also, the noise, the lighting, and the truck movements will interfere with nocturnal wildlife, such as bats, and we have 2 endangered species here, the northern long-haired bat and the Indiana bat. So these animals will not have a safe corridor to travel between Stewart State Forest and Thomas Bull Park. So again, I also urge that you consider a moratorium.
The more on the right side, or we're all good?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no problem, I do it,
I just saw something on the.
come on up. Welcome.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear me without
You're
it.
good. You got this.
My name is Norella Santiago. I live at 221 Union Street in the village of Montgomery. Coming this Thanksgiving, I will have lived here 5 years. When I came up, we were looking in Orange County because I grew up coming to Monroe from the city. And I just have beautiful dreams of being in this type of environment. And we love Monroe. We got married here, came back up here for a wedding, came back up here to buy our house. And I remember when we came, I was interviewing people on 211. I stopped at the farm stand, I stopped at the pharmacy, I stopped to talk to kids playing outside, and I asked them if their mom was there. Because I wanted to move to a place where I could raise my 3 kids that wasn't like the place I grew up in the Bronx. And I picked Montgomery. We went to Washingtonville, we tried Monroe because it was where I came from. That didn't work out. We tried so many places and we picked Montgomery. And I didn't just come up, my sister came up with her kids and my parents retired here because of my interviewing skills. And what I heard and I interviewed different ages, it was a comprehensive, it was real. My husband was like, stop. But what I heard over and over was, this is a great place to raise your family. This is a great place for kids. We have such a community here. And then soon after I moved here, as I do, I got very involved in everything. PTA, Girl Scouts, I have 2 troops. I started to create a community of people who all care about each other. And I realized that Montgomery, and specifically the village, but I think the town in general, as I was stretching out, is the best place on earth. And I say that to you, 2 years after I moved here, I lost a baby. And I was in the hospital. And I don't share that too much. And I didn't cry, and they kept bringing in the rabbis and everybody's saying she won't cry. And when I started to cry, everybody freaked out. And you know what I was crying about? I was crying because so many people from this village called me on the phone and said to me, we will take the girls. We will cook your dinner. We'll take your car to get inspected. The teachers picked my children up in the morning and drove them to school every day for the 2 months I was gone. That would have never happened anywhere that I grew up. And I cried in the hospital, and they thought it was, the real one, but it wasn't. I was so grateful to have found a place where people care about each other. Where people don't just sit on the train next to each other every day for an hour and don't even look at each other in the eye. And I felt like I belonged here. And I'll tell you, the people that I know that live here, that rent here, because mostly I know parents, they're saying, if Medline comes in, we're gonna move. This isn't the kind of place that we were looking for when we came here. When I walked down, and this, I hated this as a teenager, when I went to Puerto Rico, I hated everybody knew me. Oh, that's so-and-so's daughter, don't let her go in there, or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, I'm from the city, nobody knows you, anonymity, right? And now I love that. I walk down the street and I go, that's my friend's daughter, and it's 1 o'clock, she should be at school, what is she doing? And I'm texting my friend, your daughter is on Clinton Street, in front of the tattoo shop. I'm now one of those ladies. I got gray hair, I'm one of those old ladies now that's like telling people where their kids are and ratting on people, but that's what this is supposed to be about. Is taking care of each other. And I don't care what you're thinking or where your thinking's coming from. When you go home tonight and you're brushing your teeth and you're looking your eyes in the mirror, how far are we gonna let that change? Luckily, aside from that story, I've also been a community organizer and a labor organizer for 25 years where I was in the city. So the other thing I know how to do, aside from crying when I'm really moved, is organizing my community to stop things from happening that shouldn't happen and make things happen that should have happened. And I can guarantee to you, how many of you are up for election in November? Which are the seats, do we know? Does anybody know? Yours is. Pleased to meet you. My Girl Scout trip will be calling soon, because we have cupcake wars hoping you can judge, maybe. Side note. I'm always doing it. So think about the changes that will happen. I am less than half a mile from Medline. Who are these 600 workers? I don't know them. They're not gonna take my children to school in the morning. They're gonna be either walking or driving. It's walking distance past my door. They're not gonna call me if my kids aren't where they're supposed to be. I don't know them. And they're not gonna live in Montgomery because they're making minimum wage. You can't live here, I mean, you know that. I had to save up a lot to buy a house in Montgomery. Make the right choices, moratorium. There should be no changes to our lives. That is what you are supposed to be doing, is protecting us. And I thought, oh, I'm leaving the crooked government of New York City, but you know what happens. We'll be here.
Right.
I'm not going anywhere.
Good evening, thank you.
I'm Jane Fair, I live in the town of Montgomery. Just here in support of a moratorium until things can be straightened out. The way the growth is going in this town, and I've been to several meetings recently, I have not heard one resident speak in support of these big warehouses. Not one. There might have been a meeting, I haven't heard one. You're up there to help represent us, protect us and our home values. I know there's a balance with taxes and all of that, but these big warehouses with the wear and tear on the road and the community, our safety, there's a big expense there. And I really would hope there could be a moratorium till we really have a master plan that is something that can be agreeable to the residents, support what the people want. Should there for us. Thank you.
Thank you. We go to the right side. Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm Berger, Village of Montgomery.
Thank you, sir. How you doing? Good.
Well, you know, I looked at your agenda here and I was really, really happy that I seen that you had the Master Plan Committee on your schedule and then you put it off again.
What's that, sir?
Master Plan Committee? You had it on your agenda here?
Yeah, we explained that.
You didn't let me get done. All right. It's unfortunate that this is month 3 of that delay, all right? And I talked to you guys about it a month ago. I don't understand why it takes you so long just to put a committee together. It's just kind of ridiculous because this is the start of creating that comprehensive plan. The other thing is, I also talked about a month ago about this letter from Walter Schmidt. I notice Walter Schmidt's not here today. I understand that he's back from what you said earlier today. I'm really concerned about these letters We've brought it up at the planning board and we've brought it up before the town board, and nobody seems to want to give an answer to why he changed his opinion when the attorneys requested it. So I really would like to have the board and the planning board and Walter Schmidt to be here to explain this letter and why he changed it. It's been away too long. We're gonna get this right. We knew I was gonna come bring this up once again. The other thing is I read over this special use permit, and you know, you have a tendency to say that this Medline project is within the scope of the zoning. No, it's not. This is an industrial park zone, and you guys keep saying it's industrial. Well, the special permit is requesting, I don't know what the hell they're requesting, but they want to go from the 3-dock bay to a higher amount of number. This here could have been stopped immediately, but the planning board and this town board has decided to allow this to happen. This here special use permit started in 2018. Boy, that's a long time ago. The other thing with what happened on Monday's planning board meeting is very disturbing, because we as residents, as the lady said earlier, you guys work for us. You don't work for Medline. You don't work for Amazon. I don't see any Amazon coats on you people. We came here a month ago and we gave you a number of about 90 moratorium requests. And just to give our opinion on it, so we also asked for a 90-day stay to be able to review the document. Well, come to find out, at Monday's meeting, the planning board only gave us about, I don't know what, 28 days? But 4 days just blew by here because it's not going to be present at the libraries until tomorrow. So we lost 4 days there. The thing that bothers me, and this whole board is probably not aware of this, on June 12th, the attorney for Medline, Mr. Capello, was at Michael Sussman's office. I was present. And he spoke at that meeting. And what he said was, quote, "Your comments are welcome. Your comments will be heard. Medline's position, there will be a process." So he kind of, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but gave you the illusion that we will have our time to review this document. You all know 28 days, now we're down to about 24, is not time enough to review that document. Not for us. It's a massive, massive document. And all I'm saying to you folks is, you work for us.
What's the rush?
Robert Jones,
Welcome, sir.
210 Union Street.
Thank you.
Right now, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, I listen to tractor trailers roll by and shake my pipes in the house. Last night I was on the corner of Clinton Street and 210 and 211 Union Street, and a policeman officer was trying to get a tractor trailer around the corner at Clinton Street onto Route 211.
Oh my God.
This is at night. I'm going to be, if Medline is a success, right down the street, listening to more cars and more tractor trailers coming by my home, which I've been in for the last 20 years. I love the village. I would like the village to keep its ability to stay the way it is right now. I don't think we need Medline to help the community at all. I am in support, total support of a moratorium regarding this issue and any other projects that are ahead for this town and the village. One of the issues that I looked up that had gone through jurisdiction with Montgomery was that case called Landmaster versus Montgomery. And in 2006, Judge Joe Owen ruled in one of his statements. he said that environmental concerns include not only impacts upon the physical environment, but also impacts upon population patterns, neighborhood character, and the community in general. This was his ruling. This board, or the former board, appealed it. It went into great lengths of litigation. But inevitably, this is what was ruled and supported by the Court of Appeals and the Appellate Division of New York State. So these rulings, and I know you're not part of the zoning board, he also stated zoning ordinances constitute a balanced and well-ordered plan for the community which adequately, pardon me, my language, considers the acknowledged regional needs, unquote. So he is very much in support of community standards and community requirements, not corporate requirements. I do not support Medline. It'll ruin this village. I came from Washingtonville when there was a time when there was no red lights, traffic lights in Washingtonville. I moved out when there were 2. That community grew. Montgomery is unique. If we build Medline up the street, Medline will destroy Montgomery Village.
Please bear with me, I timed this. It's
Did you?
about 5
Oh, yeah.
minutes and 11 to 20 seconds.
Thank you.
Take your time, Pam.
I first presented this to the planning board, and you'll understand why, and I thought about it, and I thought I should bring this to you folks too, because you are elected officials.
Is your name?
Oh, yes, Kathy Pitts, Windfall Farms, 301 Neelytown Road,
Thank you.
Montgomery. Sort of, I'll get to that. At the Town of Montgomery Planning Board meeting on June 10th, I got up to speak and had what I experienced as a temper tantrum. What follows is an attempt at clearer communication of my thoughts and feelings. I must admit, however, that expressing my anger publicly was a welcome release after a painful lack of sleep the night before from the constant, deep, loud whir, whir from Hunter Panel's factory around the corner from our farm and home, and the frustration and indignation I'd held in since the week before, when I'd been told I could not speak at a Village of Montgomery meeting with a Medline rep because I was not a village resident. I had a business and owned my home in the village for 20 years. I moved back to the family farm when we were preserved in 2016. We've had a lot of work to do now that we'll be a farm in perpetuity, and I saw my life path drastically change toward that end. Windfall Farms is on the border of the towns of Montgomery and Hamptonburg. My brother, the farmer, and I are graduates of Valley Central High School, and we pay taxes to the VC School District. Our post office is Montgomery. We do our banking in Montgomery. We stop, we shop, eat, drink, relax, and entertain guests in Montgomery. We have seen our quality of life dramatically diminished by the noise 24/7 and traffic that are the result of industrial development in both towns. We are plagued by the sound of the factory that was ironically deemed a non-nuisance industry, and the beep, beep, beep of trucks backing up day and night at Cardinal Pharmaceuticals warehouse next door. Hamptonburg's industrial development has all been made possible by utilities provided by the town of Montgomery. This onslaught against residents that have lived in these towns for decades, some of us for generations, has got to